All right. I'm Mr. James.
I'm Mr. Ritchie.
And we are the educators. And as you can see, we're in the same room for the first time in 13 episodes.
Yeah.
And we get so many different camera angles
I don't even
going
know where to
on.
look.
I know. I got to make sure it gets more on the camera. Let's see this.
Yeah, there I am.
There we go. All right.
We're doing it live here.
Got to use some common sense. Yes. You're finally in the same room. This is episode number 4, season 2. It is July 8th. It is the day before we normally record. We normally record on Thursdays. It is a Wednesday post shower of some sort, but yeah.
Yeah, it's also a warm day. We're dealing with some weather here. We just had a semi thunderstorm outside, so it's a little humid. And we're working with what we've got here. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to start this off with the downside of what we're dealing with here. Of course, it's unusual. We are now here in this room, which is kind of a big step because
6 feet apart, I think.
Right.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe
social distancing as much as we can,
yeah.
But we have both been very limited in our exposure. So we're making calculated risks, kind of something I talked about last time. You choose your circles, make calculated risks, live your life. But let's not be too silly and just go out in public and breathe on everybody. So, yeah, because here we are dealing with COVID-19, a global pandemic. So worldwide, 11.8 million confirmed cases and 500,000 deaths. So 544,000 deaths.
Wow.
So kind of a rough statistic. Here in the U.S., 3 million confirmed cases. So it's just interesting, again, each episode to see the numbers jump. I'd like to go over each episode and just see the rate of change in between each episode. There's 1 week in between. And here in America, 130,000 unfortunately have lost their life to this disease. We live in Maine. So up here in our corner of the United States, we are at 3,500 confirmed cases. With 110 unfortunate people that have lost their lives. So it is still a very serious issue. Around here, we're doing a little bit better job than some other states. We talked about that a couple of times, but Texas, Arizona, Florida, if you're listening from any of those states, we'd love to hear your opinion about what you guys are doing, how you're protecting yourself, what the mindset is like. I know around here it's about 50-50, depending on what store you walk into, to see people taking masks, social distancing seriously, following the lines on the walkway up the aisles, trying to
follow the arrows.
Yeah, and some people just sort of, you know what, I'm just going to make up my own way. And so I'd like to hear what's happening in any state, anywhere where you are, but especially in those 3 hotspots currently right now. But so that's what we're looking at. But here we are. We're making our first or second, video for We Are the Educators.
Debut in the same place. So this is good. It is interesting that we're both looking at our laptops, and we have this other camera up here that is down on both of us in case. Well, I have mine aimed towards Mr. Ritchie, but yeah, if I did the otherwise, we'd have a problem with light. I want to talk about that too, because the importance of light in doing any of this stuff with videos. It is really interesting. So right now I have a camera on. We each have a camera built into these laptops. It's like a 720 or something, not the 740, whatever, quality. And then you get a 1080p from this camera up here, which was kind of having some problems earlier because it had an extension cord that was powering it and didn't work so well. So
I'd like to remind you all that we are educators, meaning we're not inherently wealthy. We've got some equipment together that we cobble it together. We've got wires running everywhere. You missed out on that on the first 10 or so episodes where it was just audio, but now you can kind of see what we're working with here. And I think that's kind of an important thing, is that you got to work with what you got, and here we are trying to make it work. And lighting, wow, that was an issue. So we had to get acquainted with these windows, the right angle, and we don't have our ring lights or anything yet.
I can, let me just see, just ruined myself.
Yeah, yeah. So that's
and
why
now I'm back. All right.
You can kind of see Mr. James is sitting in a probably not the most comfortable position, but again, he's working with what he's got.
Well, I'm actually, interestingly enough, I'm leaning on this digital piano.
Yeah.
The keyboard on top. We might have musical interlude. I don't know. People do that today. Probably not. Probably something that we recorded that's been recorded before for our music, but
we're working on it.
That's another channel. It's another channel. We'll promote other channels as we see fit, and especially on the website, which is about to go live. We've actually got some things taken care of today, so that's one reason why we are together, is that we can actually, we got the chance to get pictures together and kind of brainstorm in the same room. So it kind of forces you, when you're together with some people, to do something together and work on something.
And honestly, me and you, we're going to be working in pretty close quarters once school starts up again.
Yeah.
So it's, we're kind of, I think that we're making some pretty logical decisions here, and we all just hope for the best, right?
Yeah, and that's the good thing is too, we're trying out cameras, trying out some sort of microphone placement. For the other camera you can see right now, we get 2 mics coming through one computer that's recording us right now, so you can hear that. If I get closer, and we've got our laptops muted, so we don't have this sort of feedback thing. For those that don't understand that, the speaker that plays what you say also gets recorded through the microphone that records what you say, and it keeps playing it back to itself, and the sound that comes out keeps going back in the microphone. It can create something called a feedback loop, and it happens very easily.
And it does it at the speed of light, so eventually it just increases the speed of that clip so much it just comes out like a scream, and I'm sure any musician watching knows exactly what we're talking about.
And it gives us echo, which is something else we don't want.
Yeah.
So, and Zoom keeps telling me that I'm muted, and if I want to unmute, I can. Thank you, Zoom. Zoom is a pretty great program. I think it's saved a lot of teachers for some reason. I didn't hear about Zoom prior to this coronavirus pandemic. It seemed to me, it was, it's Google Hangouts you're going to use, or it's going to be Skype or something, and then
Skype is what I figured, yeah.
What's this Zoom thing? And all of a sudden, okay, great. And Zoom works great. We did find another program that works better, but for one person broadcasting or one room with multiple cameras. And we might try that going forward. And there's some tricks to get other people in. Just hoping we can get that, do a trial run of that maybe next week.
And we are fully aware that all the software and equipment that we need and want exists. Once again, we are public educators doing our best.
Yeah, we've got no money.
But this episode is going to be pretty interesting too, because we are going to invite some guests in, some guests with some firsthand knowledge about remote learning, distance learning, and I'm looking forward to those guests and talking about what their opinions are about remote learning, and see what they think.
Especially those that have been through the system. So as educators, we have to be learning about this system, but we also want to be good at this so that we can show confidence to our students.
Right.
And I feel the students need to have this sort of rock or stability right now, and we have to show that. And when we're not stable, at least, even using this technology, it can really show. It kind of gives them, less hope. And
well, they think, the child usually thinks that adults have it all figured out. They know it all. And when they see an adult, they usually assume this person knows what they're talking about. All right, they're speaking from experience, and some of the times we're not. And so in my experience in Zoom, it's been interesting because of certain teachers. So I'm a UA teacher, and we are, and we have to visit with multiple different classes, and in those classes, you can see the kids had to understand, or they had to observe, that perhaps not every adult knows everything about Zoom, about remote learning. We're trying things. They actually had to go through trial and error. I think that's an important lesson to learn. I mean, I think it's showing real humanity, as a teacher. And what we're trying to do is not have to do that in lifetime ourselves. We're trying to get on top of this, get used to it, get comfortable with the idea, because there is a highly likely chance that this is going to be a major part of our school year upcoming. So not something that we thought of last year at this time, but here we are.
I think we've had a, at least a point where we've realized that this is the way everything's going to be going. So we've kind of started to prepare and get ourselves ready for this, with everything. Oh, is it our guest talking?
I think it's our guest.
That's one of our guests.
One of our guests.
Hey, this is live. We can do this sort of thing. Yes. No, I'm gonna say. I don't know. Be careful on there. All right.
I'm good with Skittles. Thanks, though.
Okay, well, we're doing our podcast right now, so. All right, we'll see you guys in a moment, though. Okay? Yeah, I don't know if I'll cut that out. I might just keep that. Because
it's adorable.
Yeah, and the fact that kind of how we do this thing is not this completely pressed. Okay. Love it. A gift from Zoom. Zoom just gave me a gift. I don't know if that recorded, but Zoom just says, you're kind of going over your time, but we're going to give you a gift of some more time.
Thank you, Zoom.
You see how this technology thing works? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Live. You can imagine, as an educator, if we're doing, 5 to 10 videos a week, we've got to have a spot where we can do these videos without funny things, random things, family. I mean, it's just life happening around you. Whereas when these things happen in a live classroom, the audience understands the situation, whereas we have the disconnect where they might not know what that thing is that we're reacting to, that sound, or things like that. So we're all learning here.
Yeah, and in hard drive space, because these videos do take some hard drive space, and that's I think we all need an upgrade for the coming season. I know I definitely do. I'm hoping this video works. I think I have 4 gigs ready, but that's pretty bad out of having like a terabyte of space originally when I got my computer. But that was quite a while ago, so I guess that's what happens. Definitely our students are missing stuff while being at home, and they miss things kind of like we had today, meeting in person. By the way, I'm looking at my computer, or I'm looking at my other screen. There's a giant screen that I'm looking at right here that has everything on there. I'm actually not looking at, so Richie, if I did.
There you go. One camera right on your back of your neck.
Yeah.
Perfect, right?
See, exactly. So it's another thing we need to work at. We should have had maybe a different room. But
Go back, listen, start at the beginning and listen to us learn in real time throughout these episodes.
Listen to us start with a podcast without any specific channel, chapters, or such, and then watch us now. Still trying to get the use of that and having cameras on us and being insecure about how we look or our hair's parted. There, I fixed it.
We're usually not too concerned about how my hair's parted.
Fixed it. So the other thing I wanted to talk about before we bring in our guests and stuff like that, and we're going to start dividing these into different chapters eventually, and hopefully, maybe you'll be seeing on the screen right now, we're going to be putting some things in the bottom where things are going on. So sort of like titles for each chapter and be able to split between chapters. I think that's going to be a lot easier for people to do that. If you listen to the podcast, I don't know how to do that yet, but if I'm able to, I will do that. Once again, our podcast through anchor.fm. If you didn't hear the ad before, listen to it again. It's great. Great place to actually have your podcast hosted. And yeah, we can't say enough about it. And we've already said a lot about it because it took us a little while to make that ad. So.
We've done a lot. We've done a lot these last 13 weeks. Has it been?
Yeah. So hurdles that we've gone through with technology, common sense, light being a big common sense thing. Common sense especially if you want to make a program you want people to listen to or watch, you probably should set yourself up into a decent sort of area with the cameras so the light hits you right and that you can be comfortable. Probably don't want to put your hands up so much like that either. But if you like using your hands, video is great. Make sure you can put them up on the screen so both people can see them, or go into the other bigger camera and do this. Yeah. And common sense, hearing yourself, listening to the microphones, placing the microphones. I actually took a class in mic placement, and right now I don't have my normal XY pattern, which is where you take one microphone and you cross it with another. So this one microphone picks up this whole area, and this whole microphone picks up this whole area. So best way to do it, usually you get matched pair microphones, which means they are the same exact. They're made right next to each other on the assembly line, and it's just one of those things where, yeah, it could be the exact same brand, the exact same thing, but if it's made like 100 away from one, it's that much different, and it might not sound like they work together. And it's weird to be like that, but for those that can hear audio at that level, they can hear a difference, and it's just one of those things. They sell them like that, called matched pair microphones. Microphones I'm using right now aren't the same microphone at all. So
I think that like as far as video goes, it's almost like that the lighting matters more than the camera.
yeah,
But on the audio side, I'm noticing that a cheap or even built-in microphone that's in this computer isn't good enough. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see the differences, work through the issues, and figure out what works. But yeah, a lot of common sense, sort of also self-assessment. Listen to what you're saying. What can you change? What can be different? What do you like? Being honest, that's part of common sense too.
yeah, there's so many videos on YouTube already that talk about how doing all this stuff, and software to make your voice bigger. I can take a software now that we're doing through the video, and I can put into a software to make add some compression to our voice. I already do that with the audio because our voices might sound a little bit light. I have these cranked up. I have a certain unit I'm using right now. It converts the audio through the microphone into a digital signal, and I have these knobs that I try to crank up right to or about clipping. Every now and then I look over to it and I don't see the clipping thing, but I don't actually have a monitor set so I can actually see the levels perfectly. And probably in the future, I'm going to get used to doing that. I might like to have a hardware piece. I think we both would love to have that just in front of us so we can have everything taken care of to the level. And it gives it better for people listening.
Yeah, and on the audio level, the clipping. So clipping, if you aren't familiar with audio,
Yeah.
it's like your voice is too loud or too powerful for the microphone. The microphone has to obviously stop at some volume level, and it clips or cuts some of the audio out in order to produce a usable signal. And so that's a big thing. And it's sort of like popping. Like if you are on a phone and you've got it cranked up onto your mouth, and you say something with a letter P in it or something, that little can like cause a not a very kind or not a very nice thing to hear in the other end, and the person talking doesn't even know. And so clipping is one of those things that if you're talking to the microphone, you might not know if you're not looking at your visual cue, which is usually a light or something. But the other person certainly knows that your mic is clipping because it sounds terrible. So if you're planning on teaching, via Zoom, or even communicating, being a student via Zoom, mic placement, being close, lighting, all these things, we can all kind of work together and make it work a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think it was the last episode where I was in the dark partially because it was getting later in the day, and I had to click my button to turn my lamp on, and boom! All of a sudden, I think in the future we might each have our own little lamp.
Boom.
Yeah. See, I know, it's good. But the best thing is trying this thing out, and we thought to have an extra camera angle so you can see both of us, and this is probably the most crisper camera. Hey, the other one looks weird, yeah, but
so 1080p
yeah,
versus Yeah, 740.
740, I think it is, or 720. I don't know. Doesn't tell us.
Something.
It's one
Math.
of those that.
I think it's 740, right? You got multiple.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, probably not. Yeah, 720. I think.
Yeah.
1080, 720. I was like thinking about doubling it because in terms of someone maybe doing a trick on a skateboard or snowboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh, 180 and then
Yeah.
360 and then twice of that is 720. But it doesn't work out because 720 times 2, you get 1440 and you don't have 1080. So
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to our next section. I think we have some guests that'll be coming in, and yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, let's bring them in.
It's actually all good.
All right, I think we're back recording again. All right.
Yeah.
And we have some guests, full house.
Full house, yeah. We got 3 guests. We've got Christian,
Hello.
Luna, and Curious George.
I like the fact that Curious George is curious. We should all be curious.
That's right. All right, so I think I'm really curious about your guys' experience in school, especially this crazy year. So, Luna, what did you think about school during the pandemic?
Great.
What was it like when you had to go to school during the pandemic, during the virus?
It was kind of sad that I couldn't see my friends, but I still liked it.
You did? What'd you do? How did you learn?
Coding. I learned from my dad, and he teaches me coding and sometimes science.
Nice. Did I teach you anything else?
Maybe.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And I definitely some numbers, some letters, some reading. Right? We did a lot of reading. Let's see. Christian, what did you think about school during the pandemic?
It was kind of good and kind of not, because I didn't get to see all my friends, and I'm doing play dates with my friends, and I
Camera's trying to track.
and I'm kind of actually happy about it too, because get to play my toys, and I'm doing summer school 21st century, and I've been doing reading and math with the summer school program and a bunch of things.
Cool.
You like things online?
Well,
Is it okay with things being online, or would you rather be there in person? with people?
Well, I'd get to see my friends, and there'd be a recess.
Very
So
important.
it'd be better in person.
Do you think?
Well, it would be.
Do you think that you learned just as good by not being at school, or do you think you could have learned better or more, perhaps, being in school?
I could have learned more.
Okay. Luna, what do you think? Do you think that you learned a lot of stuff at home, or you could have learned more stuff by being in school?
I could have learned more stuff in school.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Now.
You get that. I think it's that being around peers too, being around people, your friends and stuff. And someone goes, "Hey, did you know that this or something popped up?" And they notice something, and then you notice, say, "Hey, I didn't think about that. Thanks." So it's kind of like we learn through diversity, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's like, we have our individual skills, and you and I both being teachers, we are sort of specific teachers. And then when we're now tasked with doing things, adding reading and things, it's not a huge step for us to make it, but perhaps we don't have all those tools in our tool bag that other teachers would have, for certain situations. But Luna, did you like meeting with your class online, on Zoom meetings?
Yes.
What was good about it?
I could see my friends.
Yeah, you just like to see them at least. Did you have all of your friends there? No, there's only a couple, right? In yours. What about you, Christian? Did you like meeting with your class online?
Kind of, but not all the people was there, actually.
I think that's a common thread that we've seen too. Luna, how many people do you think were online on your Zoom meeting? How many kids do you think were there?
On the very first one?
Or your first one or last one?
I choose first one.
Okay. How many were there?
5?
I agree. I think there's about 5 kids maybe, and I think there's like a little bit more than 5 in your class usually, right? Like, how many do you think?
12?
I agree. I think that there's probably about 12 kids in your class, and only 5 made it to the Zoom meetings.
I got like
Yeah.
20 something.
Yeah. What do you think, Christian? How many did you have?
How many showed up in your classes?
Like half of the class, kind of,
Half. Yeah.
or less than half.
Yeah.
Maybe like 1/8.
Yeah. So in my experience, so I teach at the school that Christian goes to. So I teach Christian's class as well. So does Mr. James. And I would have to say that very few children showed up for most of it. Some classes were impressive. There was half. At the most, I saw half attendance.
Yeah.
So I think that also leads to like the situation. So they both list friends and being with their friends as a big deal. And when you go online, part of that is missing when half of your friends at most show up, which is kind of interesting. But so Luna, are you ready to go back to school? Yeah. What do you think will be different when you go back to school?
I won't be learning coding anymore.
Yeah, you really like learning coding? So I teach coding as part of my curriculum. So my daughter got to get a pretty fast-tracked course on coding, and she's awesome at it. And so she's a natural, so I think that's why she leans towards that. But how about you, Christian? Are you ready to go back?
Yeah.
You
So
are?
I can do coding.
Yeah?
Hey, what about music? He learned some music here. He's
too.
playing piano and stuff, and being in 4th grade means recorders, of course.
Yeah. Well, yes.
You'll get to learn recording.
Yeah.
I kind of like recorders.
And don't worry, we won't share recorders. Everyone that's a big worry we have. Are we going to share recorders? Especially this year. No, we never did. We never shared them. I always had them away from each other. So you don't want to put your mouth on someone else's mouth recorder, right? You didn't want to do that.
No, but I like to try playing the violin.
Yeah.
Nice.
And actually, that's something 3rd grade should have done. We're just about to get to. We just got them delivered, and then this happened.
Interesting. What do you think will be different in your school this year, Christian?
We might get to do the play Swarm stuff, even though it was for 3rd grade.
Yes,
We
this
could
is
still.
3rd grade. I do an in-class musical for those that can't be part of the musical that normally happens through 4th to 6th graders, and we didn't get a chance to perform. We were 1 week away. I made the costumes. I showed the costumes off. We had a dress rehearsal, and this is within a 40-minute class, which is not easy to do when you have 23 students. 4 different productions for 4 different classes of the same musical. Yeah, it's very, very difficult, but I had it together even better than I did the previous year when I put it together for the first time. And we didn't get to do it. And yeah, there's a lot of candy that I had ready. You know. So it's still probably good. It's still in its package, but it's going to be hard to kind of bring that back. And I guess I can try to do that, except for the fact that social distancing, I don't see how we can all be together. If we can't actually have a real theater open up in the state, I doubt we can have a theater experience open up in the school. So.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I'll try to do it. I'll make a digital version.
What do you guys think? Do you guys think, so when we go back in the fall, there's a good chance, right, maybe, right, If we do go back in person, do you think that you could learn with a mask on?
Yes, but it would kind of be hard to talk
Right?
a little.
Absolutely. What do you think, Luna? Do you think that you could wear a mask? You had to wear one today for the dentist office.
Well, it was hard to talking. It was hard to talking.
Yeah.
But what did they do at the dentist? Did they like break open the mask?
That's a really good question, Christian. No, they
No.
they let her take hers off. I kept mine on, and the dentist had to wear a lot of protective equipment. But
They rip it open like a bag of chips.
Yeah.
You see your mouth, oh, look at it. It's the worst bag of chips ever.
And then
It's
they have
your
to take
mouth. Yeah.
then they take a shot afterwards.
Yeah. They take it. Be
Yeah.
quiet. You're clean now. Oh. When I went to this,
You're almost done, don't you
when yeah, all our guests want to get off the show. So after I went to the dentist and they didn't even do all of the things. They didn't actually polish my teeth. They didn't floss my teeth. And they said it's because it would spit up in their face. But they were doing other things that I thought would spit up in their face, especially that sprayer that sprays the water. They were using that quite a bit. And yeah, and my dentist, I got to see them later than I normally did, like 2 or 3 months later.
That's my favorite part. Well, I think my favorite part is the water. So
Yeah, they have something. They have something called a water pick, which is really concentrated water. It can really like get the stuff off your teeth, but they didn't even use that. They said we're not allowed to clean your teeth anymore. All we can do is scrape them, and that's it. Painted
Like a
some.
Russian
They
floss
put
ball.
some fluoride on it, which they paint on. It makes my teeth feel sticky.
Do you remember that, Luna? Did you have that today? Yeah. Yeah, she did not like
I
that.
said I don't even use fluoride toothbrush. I use Tom's of Maine. Welcome to Maine.
Last question I have for you guys that I'm really curious about. One of the other things that we were talking about. So they're not going to have kids congregating, like so multiple different classes in one room, which means a lunchroom. So what do you guys think? So eating in your classroom, do you think that's going to be all right? Kind of not so good? Do you think it'll be better with less noise? What do you think?
well, it'd kind of be better, because there wouldn't be as much noise, and then the teacher wouldn't have to keep yelling voices off, and safer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good that you mentioned that. You care about the safety part of it. That's awesome. What do you think, Luna? Would you be happy to eat lunch in your room at your desk without all the people being in the same room? Yeah. Do you think that's better?
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a whole different setup than Christians. So Christians is the whole like 3 or 4 different classes at one time, or even more.
Like 3 and 4.
Yeah, there's like so many, and then they're so elevated and loud, and
So they have a microphone in that room, and I know, we both know, having to, at the end of the day, we have a special duty to have parents pick up their kids, and I have to turn the microphone all the way down from being cranked up, speakers hissing that loud, just because all the announcements are going to come through them, and it's going to just blow our ears away. We can't. It's so loud, and they need the mic just to be able to say something for kids to listen.
I measured, I think it was like 85 decibels without the mic, like as a kind of an average, 85 decibel average. Brought a decibel meter in to show a student, and then with 110 decibel spikes.
Wow.
So meaning like if they key the mic and they say voices off, or all right, this class can go 110 decibels.
120, you actually get hearing damage.
Yeah, and so there was pretty interesting, and Luna, much smaller school, much fewer kids, so probably a little bit different experience. But well, that's awesome. Well, thank you guys for providing some awesome information for us, because as teachers, we got to hear feedback from our kids, and because you are our kids, we get to have some good experience.
Claim your kid.
All right. I think that Luna wanted to go play Pirates now. So.
All right, you pirates.
All right. Let's see if you can get out of here without
All right.
knocking over a mic stand.
Yeah. All right. See if you can escape without tipping over anything.
All right. It's a maze. There you go.
Thank you for being our first guest on the podcast,
Right.
vlogcast,
Keep being awesome.
Thank you.
and somebody who really likes the camera a lot. I don't know who he is.
Me.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Wow. That was first thing.
I think
Wow.
that's really interesting though. Like, I actually thought that she would not like to eat food in her classroom. Like she seems to be a social butterfly
Yeah.
sometimes. So I'm not surprised that Christian doesn't want to eat in that crazy lunchroom.
Yeah. And that's something they have to deal with, I think, for the fact that they can have all these students that have to be fed, and we have to get the meals out to them, and having to cart them to different classrooms is going to be. I've seen them cart them to the pre-K room, and it's a very limited amount of people. They have multiple. The people they might have to hire. I mean, that might be one of my jobs, deliver food, and I don't mind doing that if I had to do that, but I think that's going to be a large portion of the day is just getting food out. Breakfast, lunch, snack. Wow, I'm seeing
No food
2
from
hours. Yeah,
No,
that's
so
right.
No.
2 hours worth of stuff, just doing that.
Yeah. And it was interesting. So today, we had to go to the dentist, so we had to wear our masks, and we wore a traditional, probably what would be distributed to a school, paper mask, with the ear loop.
Yep.
And she only had to wear it for about a half an hour today. And I'll be honest, by the end of it, she was not digging it. She wanted to take that thing off as soon as possible. Half an hour versus a 6-hour school day, I really think that if masks are part of this, we might get by the first week without some major pushback but their little ears and breathing, especially when you go back in the fall. Around here, the taxpayers choose not to spend extra money for air conditioning in our schools because we do have a pretty mild climate for most of the year, but August, September, there are some 85-degree days where it's 80, 85 degrees in the classroom, and when you have this mask on, I'm not sure how that's going to go, and we're going to find out. It will be a steep learning curve, I'll say that.
And if anything, if they have the teachers wear it, we're going to have teachers probably maybe pushing back against that. I mentioned earlier, off camera, off podcast, that we were, that I would be probably purchasing something that a athletic company would be making for those that work out with a mask on, because a lot of the stuff I do, and we both do, we're on our feet all the time. We might look down if we have a watch or something that measures our steps and be like, oh, 15,000 steps. Yeah, that seems about average. Just walking around our room, thousands of steps, just walking back and forth to a board, walking over to a computer, walking over to see if someone understands something. So having a mask on and being able to talk through that, or even be able to sing through that, I'm looking at sort of a microphone that fits over my my ears and goes right to my mouth, right in front of my mask, but
Interesting.
it's just trying to get that tech taken care of. I mean, I like the concept of wearing a mask. I like that whole being protected and stuff. I want it to be able to fit right. It's kind of like me with exercise, finding the right glove if you're lifting weights, so you're not grabbing my delicate fingers for playing instruments. I'm not hurting my palms and getting lots of calluses and hurting my fingers. And I found a decent pair of gloves that's actually cool and my fingers don't sweat in it. It took a long time to find these gloves, and you don't know how they work until you actually use them.
And with the mask, your face, everyone's face is so different. The distance between the tip of your nose and your chin is
my little pokey nose, right?
And so
Sorry.
like, how are you going to be able to, just buy one online? And, I had to get my hair cut, like earlier in the month, and my, where I go, my barber, he's trying one, but you could see as he's doing his job, it slowly creeps down, and, like, eventually he looks like one of those people that don't know how to wear a mask, and it's just covering his mouth and not his nose, which is a rant I could have gone off on.
Oh, yeah.
But, so it's like, there are these these unknowns, these things that we will be experiencing, and I have no problem. I'll teach in a mask if it means that I can teach live. It's totally fine by me. However, because we teach K through 6, I cannot imagine trying to, especially 3 months into this, trying to teach kindergartners and first graders. Don't touch anyone else's mask.
Yeah.
Get that mask back on. I can't imagine how many times I'm going to have to stop, and so I'm really curious to see how this goes, but I think that was a pretty interesting perspective with the masks. I mean, they seemed more like open because they're kids, positive, genuine positivity. Put them in that situation, though, like she was at her dentist's office. I think that their reactions might change, and I do like that they were ready to go back. I think that when I was in, their age, like so first grade or fourth grade, that I probably would say, no, I'm not ready to go back. I'm fine, But like the distance between their friends has made an impact where they're like, I'm ready for that socialization with peers once again,
And that might change how students act towards each other. I mean, it could go both ways. Either, wow, we haven't seen each other in a long time. We need to catch up on the past this many months. These, 3 times as many months away from each other. So we have to talk about everything and not pay attention to anything that's being done in school, or pay attention to teachers and create a lot of behavioral issues. Or it could be, hey, maybe we have been meeting, or we've been talking online, or maybe they're just not so interested anymore. And it could change, like, we actually want to go through the scheduling that is school.
Yeah.
Because we're tired of not being part of a schedule. For those that don't have a schedule whatsoever, not even sleeping at the same time or eating at the same time every single day. And that can just...
Luna has certainly got much less of a regulated schedule than what she would normally experience. And at first, she craved for that. Like, she wanted our school day to go in the same linear progression as her school day. So choice time is now, and after gym, we do this, and I want snack time right now. And that did change. But, I think it will be nice. It'll almost be a comfort for a lot of kids, not everybody, but like a lot of kids to have that sense of regulation again. And I wasn't surprised at the answer to, did you like meeting with your class online? Mixed reviews.
Yeah.
I would say I agree. Mixed reviews. I kind of like being on camera. I kind of like that a little bit. But also meeting with the classes online, I would often, kindergarten, first graders, they would suddenly be replaced with a stuffed animal in front of the camera, or, they'd see
I
the
didn't
cat.
notice.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice. You have large ears right now.
Yeah.
You're the color purple.
They'd see the cat and take off after the cat. Now the cat is with them in front of the camera, and as soon as you see one cat, everyone's gonna go and
find a cat.
go, absolutely. And so mixed reviews. It's absolutely feeling is mutual. And then, so my question was, what did you think about school during the pandemic, and what did school look like? But I think we expected those answers.
Yeah.
The first thing, they missed their friends, but it was all right. Our kids did pretty good. I know that it's going to be mixed reviews. Not every parent has the opportunities that we have, where our job, at the time didn't exist. So we had the time to be home. Even though we were essential, it's not the same as perhaps the auto repair expert that has to go and hop into customers' cars all day long, and suddenly his usual way of doing business is completely different and changed, and they can't be home with their kids.
Yeah.
They're still working on these customers' cars, exposure, talking to customers. I come from automotive repair. I have a bunch of friends that are still there. Hearing their experiences through this was unfortunate, made me really appreciate what I've got and how I was able to be with her and do my best and provide some form of education. And I know not everybody had that opportunity, so I'm interested to see how those kids fared as well.
Yeah, and it's like I'm still looking forward to what I'm going to try to do and working with other teachers for when we go back. if we go back, and how to get into the community and yet be socially distanced. Just to create, and we have to do this. Not that I don't know if my job is at stake, but getting students interested in playing instruments. I'm partly an ensemble teacher, as well as a few other teachers, and they are seriously worried because the drop-off rate is crazy from elementary school down to like a fraction, a very tiny fraction. I mean, 1/10, even less than 1/10, going into middle school, playing the instruments, and then literally almost zero, very, very few going into high school, and it just kind of like peters out as they move up, and it's too bad.
It is too bad, especially when instruments can cure boredom so well. You know, especially if you're at home and bored. Like my daughter likes to draw and color, but yeah, yeah, right. There you go. But you know, like
guitars.
Yeah, if you're home and bored, you know, right now, and kids, they gravitate towards screens and things like that. And you know, if they got this interest, if Mr. James can be there and drum up that interest, and you know, get the kid inspired to get this instrument, and when they're bored, they gravitate towards that. You know, that can be a positive thing. But yeah, the quality of online education versus live instruction is different. I don't want to say poorer, because there are some kids that are doing pretty good, but you know, it's different.
Yeah, I think you have to be self-motivated to go find the information. I mean, you can find anything. I mean, I've installed, I don't install anything. I'm not, you're the mechanic. I installed a dishwasher. I'm patting myself on the back, but I know you can see it. Those that on the podcast can know, you can hear the there. Yeah. Wow. And it wasn't the standard one either. This is the weird one.
Instead of having a installation guy come in and, you know, have to be in here, you know, so we had to fix our dishwasher because I wasn't about to buy a new one, get it delivered and all that. So yeah, I had to get in behind there. It doesn't leak. It's working.
No, that's the other thing. But that's the whole. You have to be self-motivated to do things. If you want to find information, it's out there, and you have to just keep up at it. So definitely keep interested in what you're doing, and say, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? These are like scientific processes that have to go on for you.
And normally that's especially in American education, it's a transition, you know.
Yeah.
Elementary school, it's a slow roll in. All of a sudden, middle school, of course, a huge jump in responsibility, self-motivation. High school, whole other level, picking my classes. What do I want to do? What am I going to become? And so I think our kids got a little bit of at least a look at what self-motivation is like. What happens when you have no self-motivation? Well, it's followed by boredom, going a little crazy, you know, maybe having behavioral attitude issues, you know, where you don't feel right, you get grumpy easy, stuff like that. So self-motivation, I've been trying every time I was talking to a class and try to get them to buy into the idea you can learn anything right now. You have the time. Pick something that you've always wanted to learn, chase it, learn it, do what you can. I use my example that I taught myself 3 instruments in 1 year using only YouTube, guitartabs.com or whatever it is, and you know, just Ultimate Guitar. Ultimate Guitar, they're the best. And you know, so like the free, and all these people like us, you know, we're broadcasting, trying to teach people, trying to talk about things that are interesting to certain people. You can find your niche, trying so hard, because I know that some of the adults out there, they haven't found their niche. They haven't gone and done the online learning that we have. And it's something to be shared, something to be appreciated and shared. It's going to be something that's part of our life for the foreseeable future. I don't see it going away. We're all going to be wired up eventually here. So make the most of what you got when you got it.
I think with the big opening for the school year, teachers should realize that students have to kind of unload everything that's happened to them, and we need to talk about how this pandemic has affected everybody. And I think that's actually more important than introducing anything new, is finding what students have learned on their own and what growing up they've been doing, so that they can share it with others that might have not gone through that. Because otherwise we're going to have a lot of students that have gone to the survival instinct, which really makes you grow up fast, and some that haven't had to do that. And that disparity, when you're learning next to someone you feel like, well, I've gone through so much more than this other person has, it really kind of sets a roadblock up. So yeah, that's going to be a big thing. Social emotional learning.
Social emotional.
Huge. That literally should be half the year without anything new. I think from the beginning to at least mid-year, it should just be trying to pick up these pieces and try to reintroduce things that didn't end the previous year, and social emotional learning about what they have gone through and how to deal with what they've gone through.
We have an incredibly diverse population where we teach. I would challenge to say probably the most diverse in the state, absolutely, if not a good example of diversity for the entire country. Around a 50% ratio between ethnicities, how much their parents earn. What's the word I'm looking for?
Oh yeah, like economic, socioeconomic.
So are the classes range from the most unfortunate situations you can imagine. Both of us, we teach kids that are homeless, we teach kids without parents, we teach kids that live in group homes. We teach kids that have doctors and lawyers as parents. Like, it's the disparity, or the range, I should say, is very big where we teach. And so with that, we also have an over 50% ratio of children with traumatic experiences. And now I'm going to venture to say that we've got about 100% of children that have gone through.
We've all gone through this. I mean, we have a little PTSD about this. We go out, we have our masks ready. I have
a go bag with
sprays with everything I need and stuff. I mean, Mr. Ritchie knows, before he came into my place, I had to pat him down and spray him down, make him go through the UV thing that I got. And
take the test
that I made up in a previous podcast. It doesn't exist yet now.
I really lost my train of thought, but I forgot what we were talking about.
Yeah. Socioeconomic, how they're gonna reintroduce.
And so now with the children with prior history of traumatic experiences. So I my heart goes out to them specifically, and I like to teach to them. I like to help improve their life, their situation. And my heart goes out to them because I'd say almost every single one of my Zoom sessions, my class meetings, the kids I was worried about weren't there.
Yeah.
The kids that I said to myself beforehand, I'm going to go to, Mrs. So-and-so's class. I wonder how this kid's doing. I wonder how they're doing. I know their situation a little bit. Hop on the Zoom. They're not there. And it's kind of like a really empty feeling. And you're, at the same time, I'm looking at the crowd I've got, and I want to entertain them. I want to teach them something. But I couldn't help but keep thinking about those kids that weren't there. And, we have some kids that are in some violent homes. We have kids that are in homes where yelling is the primary form of communication. So when they show up in a public education situation, whenever they're stressed, they only know this overreaction. We are going to be certainly faced with that once we get back into it. And, we're going to be ready for that. That's why, I agree. Social emotional learning, it's got to take the forefront. We got to recover from this in order to move forward. There's no way that we can pretend it didn't happen.
We need to regress everything that we've been doing and kind of go back to the basics. I think, but I think that's one of the things we have to do anyways. We reset ourselves every single year. We don't always use the same curriculum. We change things around. What worked, what didn't work. What can we do to make more, social emotional, like we're talking about, or even just so we can just more diversity in all of our teaching. And every single year I do this, and I have digital tools to do that. This year is going to be the exact same. It's just going to be more towards social emotional learning, and anything that I've ever done, hopefully, is going to be on a website that I've made. Mr. Ritchie's made his own website, and we've linked our websites together because I think out of anything, we need to be together. All teachers need to be working together, and especially the specials, which always seem to be in their own sort of like part of the school, away from everybody else. We seem to be in our little like isolated group, fending for ourselves and such. But we just want to show everybody we're there to help out and use us as a resource, not just another person to kind of take your break and on. We actually can help everyone else's teaching.
Yep, in collaboration, like, hey, heads up, so-and-so, they've had a tough day. Or at the beginning of the year, it's going to be, heads up, so-and-so had a really tough summer.
Yeah.
I worked in a special needs program where students came from extremely rough homes, and we had significant regression. All it takes is a summer break, let alone a summer break on top of 3 months of being isolated from your classmates. So I don't think any educator should go into this year expecting children to have figured this out. Like it's going to be rough, and I think that we need to expect that behavioral wise. And I don't know if we're going to get them regulated by the end of the year. So I think that it's just one of those things where I think behavioral training, behavioral accommodations or expectations are going to be different. I came from the program where I was getting punched in the face almost every day, so I think I've got a pretty good grasp on what to do, how to respond to the violent outbursts, certain things which I expect to have happen. And I'm a sort of teacher, and so is Mr. James. We push our students where we really like to get them to see how much they can do. And so even the slightest bit of push sometimes in a certain kid can get a heck of a reaction. And so certainly we'll see that amplified. And I think that our kids helped understand that at least the relationship part will be the biggest healing thing I think that we can do, as long as our kids have healthy social emotional learning where they can relate and talk with others. So
Well, I think that's been a good podcast, maybe a good place to wrap sort of things up. We're definitely glad to be able to have guests today, and especially talk about this and be in person.
Yeah.
For those that on the podcast, you might actually notice a difference in audio quality because we're going through the same microphones I personally have used in a much, I think, lower. I set the levels a little bit lower, but I hope these pick everyone up.
Yeah.
And for those watching the video, I hope this isn't too crazy to see so many different things. Oh, hold on a second.
Yeah,
there,
right.
my hand's in front of his camera now, so I just want to make sure. Oh, it's stuck there. Okay.
There we go.
Great. Yeah. So making sure that we're here to stay. We're hoping this is going to turn into something, and we're going to definitely be changing some of the format of this so we can streamline things a little bit easier and get some more software worked on and boom our voices so we don't have to talk like this all the time, which I don't do anyway. So.
And reach out if you're watching this, you have something to say, questions, comments, concerns.
Subscribe, please subscribe. Listen to the podcast if you can. If you can't watch screen, listen to the podcast. You get the exact same thing, maybe with some interesting intro music as well, which I think I can add to this as well.
Can't wait. Can't wait for that. We're gonna jam someday and make something out of this.
Oh yeah. So I'm Mr. James.
And I'm Mr. Ritchie.
And
We
are the educators. Air high five. Although we could do real one, but social distancing. See ya.